letting go of life difficulties. And, you know, do we know really what our purpose in life is, or are life difficulties getting in the way? Is there a psychic power maybe that we can tap into? You know, is it true that if we act like a success and think like a success, that, we can bring on the life that we want? A Course in Miracles, when you dive deep into the principles, which is what we're going to talk about today, and which also is why I always recommend breathing meditation exercises. But anyways, the Course in Miracles is going to help us to understand more about the, the gifts of the Holy Spirit. And I'm going to explain briefly about that today. Hey, everyone, James Nussbaumer, and thank you for joining me this early Monday morning again at 6 a.m. The sun is just starting to peak up, and it's supposed to be a great day where I'm at today in Northeast Ohio. But overcoming life difficulties and finding purpose in life, exactly what really are the life difficulties that seem to keep you from your purpose in life? Now, I have to take a sip of coffee here first, by the way. But Eduardo, and he says he goes by Ed, and Gina with a Gina, because I have a sister Gina, and her name begins with a J. But so Ed and Gina from El Paso, Texas, had asked me, what really does it, what's really involved in, if God is just, can there be any problems at all that, justice in our life cannot solve? And, and Gina, they both messaged me on Facebook, actually two separate messages. Ed gave me one, and then Gina another one, because they wanted to detail what they were wanting to know. But they understand that, the one-mindedness of, the creation, and the one-mindedness of God, which we really are, and the ego gets in the way. And they understand all that, from what the principles of the spiritual metaphysical principles of A Course in Miracles teaches. But still, there's still that question: if God is just, can there be any problems at all that, justice just cannot solve? And the reason that problems are not being solved is really it's that ego-based cloud cover that's just in the way. And as humans, we're always going to have that. So the more that we can understand that, the better that we will be able to live more happily. And even when we're trying to overcome life difficulties and finding purpose in life, if we can just remember when we're overcoming a life difficulty is that, hey, the reason I'm stressed out right now and I'm anxiety filled is because it's the ego in me. It's not the eternal self. And if you can look face to face at that kind of a thought, all of a sudden you start feeling better because spirit takes over. Well, let me explain exactly what really are the life difficulties that only seem to keep you from your purpose in life. What's keeping you from your purpose in life? What is it? Boy, that was something that I had to overcome. Letting go of and ridding life difficulties, searching for them, and maybe clarifying your inner core beliefs or your inner core life objectives really can help you shift forward with higher emphasis and, equality each day of your life. I've got to say, for those of you that know me, I spent 8 years in prison over a foolish securities violation. And speaking of what I just said, when I first got out, my sister Jannie, who, by the way, just had a birthday yesterday, March 3rd. In fact, today is March 4th, 2018. And she's 3 years behind me, and we've taken care of each other. We're I'm the oldest of 6 kids, and she's third. And, so we always, it seems that her and I kind of, more than the rest of the 4, always kind of looked out after each other. But, she picked me up from when I got out of prison, and boy, we had a lot of talking to do. And, and when she read my first book, The Master of Everything, she was a little appalled because it touched her ego. And so if you can get an example, think about your ego, which is based on fear, doubt, judgment, and worrying about the future, mainly worrying about the future. Also regrets of the past, but mainly worrying about the future, like, am I going to go to heaven or am I going to go to hell? Well, look at what we've been taught. If you do something wrong, you're going to hell. If you do everything right in your life, you will go to heaven. So is it surprisingly hard to understand why we are filled with fear in our life? All right, let's get on with this. Specifically, it's how the world, really think about it, it's how the world's most influential people and how successful people grow. They just seem to know how to act like success and think like a success because they know how to understand when the ego in them gets in the way. They know how to understand that when you're down and you're gloom and doom and you're calling your friend, I just don't know how I'm going to get over this. But we know how, with deep within, if we go deeper, we know how to get over that. And we know it's just the ego putting a bunch of cloud cover over the light of who we really are. And if you can understand it that way, and you just accept the cloud cover for what it is, don't judge it, don't rule over it, don't force it to move out, just accept it and let it drift away and fade away on its own. Kind of like the weather in this world teaches us. Does that make sense? I hope so. Well, specifically, in these unclear and difficult times, think about when you're establishing clear goals and objectives, as well as fine-tuning your purpose in life, it might just make things a lot easier to overcome adversity when you're really honed in, tuned in. You got that channel fine-tuned in, the channel in your mind fine-tuned into what it is you want in life, and not putting any stress into it, because that's where the ego sneaks in the back door on us. So do you have a passion that you're not really striving toward? Think about that. Do you? Is there something that you thought maybe you should be going after, but you're just not? It's kind of haunting you a little bit. Well, let's take all this thought about life difficulties and not knowing your purpose in life into a deeper realm, if you will, of your true essence by asking yourself, when I say your true essence, by the way, I mean the spirit of who you are with no ego involvement. But since you're a human being, there will be some ego, because as we're humans in this world, and while we're in this world, the ego will always be a part of us. But minimize the ego as much as you can. And let me repeat this. Let's take all this thought about the difficulties that you may be thinking that you're having in life. But when you really are aligned with your purpose, something you know that you need to do, make that the realm of your true essence about who you are. But then ask yourself a couple of questions while you're understanding. Ask yourself these questions while still understanding that the ego in you still wants to get in the way. That ego is that fear and doubt and judgment, regret, fear of the future, and regret of the past. Okay, so here it is what you need to ask. Here's the first question. I'll repeat that. in case you're trying to keep up with me here. Let's take this thought of life difficulties to overcome the ego by asking yourself two questions. Not to overcome the ego, because if you're trying to overcome the ego, then all you're doing is just being ego against ego. So my point is you're trying to just let the ego fade away because you don't care about it anymore, because you know that it's not real. So to do that, here are the two questions that you need to ask yourself. If God is just, can there be any problems at all that justice cannot solve? And what is justice? I'll repeat that question. If God is just, can there be any problems at all that justice cannot solve? What is justice? Justice means no ego involvement. Justice means just allowing the cloud cover to just fade away. In other words, if you're faced with something you need to do and a decision you need to make, or you're angry at someone and you feel you need to talk to them, and you just, but deep down there's something else that's burning inside saying you shouldn't, but you just want to call them anyway and give them a piece of your mind, maybe by letting the cloud cover fade is like maybe doing nothing, saying nothing, do nothing, say nothing, when those kind of feelings are coming around you. So if God is just, can there be any problems at all that justice cannot solve? It's just a matter of understanding your ego and accepting that you have an ego while you are here in this world, because the ego is the human body. The next question is, do you believe that some injustices are fair and good, meaning that they're necessary to preserve and protect yourself? Is it really necessary that an injustice somewhere out there is meant to take care of you? Yeah, you need to answer that without ego cloud cover. Remember, the ego is just a big cloud hanging over your light of spirit that's blocking your light. After you've reviewed this video, and it's really not a video, it's an audio at YouTube and at my website, but after you've reviewed this, I want to talk to you about a related post that you might want to revert to. It's actually an article that I'd written. It's pretty in depth on when you're feeling stuck and depressed, how to set yourself pretty much free from self-imprisonment. And you can find that at my website at jamesnussbaumer.com. Put in /self-imprisonment and you'll find it. Or if you're wanting to surf my blogs, just go to jamesnussbaumer.com and go to my blog, because most of my articles are hundreds and hundreds of articles are relating to what we're talking about today. And why? Because I just love to help us talk about these are our problems that we think are great and cannot be resolved, which they can. It's our own clouded ego-based thinking that only makes problems be what they are. Isn't this what we are doing? Now, I might seem like I'm going in a political path here towards politics, but I'm really not. But I want you to understand that I'm going to say what I'm going to say without being political. But I'm just saying, isn't this what we are doing when we bomb other lands, drop bombs in other lands, but then we tell ourselves that we are trying our best to minimize the death toll of the innocent? Isn't that kind of interesting? Also, isn't this what we did when we took land from the Native Americans in the United States, which wasn't the United States then, which was the New World, they called it back then. But isn't this what we did when we took land from the Native Americans? Because we put in our mind that if we didn't do it, someone else would have. Think about that. If we didn't take the land from the Native American Indians, someone else would have. So that made it okay for us to take the land, right? Well, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have, or that I'm just trying to, I'm trying to be neutral here in a neutral zone here for you to understand what the ego is about. And like I said earlier, as long as we are in this world, we will have an ego to deal with. So it's how we deal with the ego. And isn't this what we do when we spank our child and say, this will hurt me more than it hurts you? I remember my oldest daughter, Erin, Erin, Erin. She's just a beautiful woman now, approaching the age of 40. She's a school teacher and just a wonderful, wonderful woman with 3 kids and a wonderful husband. Just a beautiful, successful woman. When she was 7 years old, we had a birthday party for her at my house. And she, for some reason, I don't know what got into her, but she was acting so bad and treating, and it wasn't like her. It just was not like her at all. But she was, and I just, well, to the day I die, I will remember this. And my wife, which was not her mother, it was my second wife, Lori, who's no longer living. But Lori had said, she's just treating people terrible. And I listened to her, and she was. I'm like, I pulled her aside and said, Erin, this is your birthday. This is not like you. And she just let off on me. And I said, all right, listen, let's go up to your bedroom. And we need to talk about this. Because I always had a bedroom for her at my house and wherever I lived. And, and we talked about it. And she was just nasty. And I had to scold her like you would not believe on her birthday. And then I had to make her go downstairs, which was in the lower level of the home, where the party was going on, a birthday cake with candles, and everybody brought her presents on her 7th birthday. And she had to apologize to people. And I made her do that. And she was just in tears to have to apologize. Well, see, there's the ego even in an early age, but it's not just that my daughter Erin has an ego. No, the ego is something that we share as human beings, but we share it not as something whole, WHOLE, not as something as a wholeness and oneness. The ego is something that's split apart and is a bunch of separation. It's like cells of the body splitting apart. So my point about that example that I made is like, if we can understand, of course, I was at a lot younger age back then when that happened, when my daughter was 7 and acted so terribly at her 7th birthday party, which, by the way, she's a tremendous woman now, leading the way and teaching kids to be better people in their life. Anyways, it seems that these are those, it seems that there are those that we want to see suffer loss, and no one that we wish to see being preserved from sacrifice entirely. And my point is saying, my ex-wife at that time, was calling me, Erin's mother, why did you scold her on her birthday? So, those kind of things. I think that you kind of get my drift if you're sitting back in your chair and just listening to this. But that's okay. And of course, but see, now I think that as time is going on, the younger people are more educated on these kind of things than we were back then. Hey, I'm 60 years old now. My daughter is soon to be 40. Actually, when she turns 40, I will be 61. Oh my goodness. Oh, how am I going to be 61 years old? See, that's the ego in me crying about time killing me. That's the ego. But spirit doesn't care. Spirit knows that you are eternal. So I think you see where I'm getting at here. Okay, judging others. Isn't other people's dirty laundry what we like to see, especially when it is someone we feel is more successful, more prosperous than us, such as the problems of the movie stars that clutter the media, all these things we're seeing lately? Doesn't it kind of make us want to kind of like, in a way, I mean, just in a certain way, kind of we want to like be glad that they're having those problems because it's like makes us feel better that they're not any better than us. I think you get where I'm coming from. When you're thinking that way, that's the ego, just a part of the ego. And so that's good to know. And the reason for this video, this podcast today, is to, let us know, just to address the ego and stare it in the face when it comes up. We're never going to get rid of it, but we can stare it in the face, and we can, and we can treat it like a bratty child on her birthday, and take her to her room and have a talking with and say, okay, now you're going to go down and apologize. That kind of thing. I hope that makes sense. A Course in Miracles asks us to consider our special function and purpose. It's a function and purpose in life that is giving to you to see in your brother/sister. And I always put brother/sister because in today's world, I don't want to be overly masculine overtone. But when I say that you see in your brother/sister, I'm not talking about your siblings. I'm talking about the one-mindedness in each other that we're all connected to as the child of our Creator, which I call God, but other people may call it someone else, something else like Allah or, whatever. It doesn't matter. The Creator, a word is just a word. God, which I use because I was raised on, is just letters in the alphabet called G-O-D. When we go to eternity and meet our Creator, there is no such alphabet as G-O-D. So I think you get my drift on that. I better take a sip of coffee here. So, let's talk about our errors in thought that can be easily corrected. We talk about sin, but sin is only the same illusion as the error in thought that made the illusion itself. Does that make any sense? Think about it. Sin is only the same illusion as the error in thought that made the illusion itself. We want to say we're sinners, but that's the ego in us pointing at sin and saying we're sinners. No, in eternity, there is no sin. So if we can act from our eternal self, we're not sinners because we're acting from eternity. But then, and do not ask that your brother, sister, like I had said, oneness in mind, make sacrifices because you really do not want him to suffer loss. No, you don't. Excuse me. When I had to scold my daughter on her birthday, on her 7th birthday, I didn't want to scold her. That would be making her suffer loss. But at that age that I was at the time, I felt I had to do something. But Spirit was holding on to me and telling me to, nurture her afterwards and let her know that everything was going to be all right. But I think you get where I'm coming from. But, if you can't do this and you can't understand between the ego and spirit, you're only seeing the body as all that you are and nothing else. But when you can understand that, while in this world, you're thinking from the body, but you're also thinking from beyond the body. So if you can understand and digest that the spirit beyond the body is who really is in charge, if you can see it that way, more so, maybe if you can like get it to where it's like 60% spirit, 40% ego or whatever. And calculations is just an ego thing, but I think you know what I'm saying. If you can be more spiritually oriented than you are humanly ego-based oriented, then, it's like it's there for you to have a life of success and overcome life difficulties. You are just holding it back and are afraid when you can't ask for healing a bad attitude. The Holy Spirit, the Course in Miracles calls as your inner divine self. And I like that traditional term, the Holy Spirit, because, I just like traditional terms. But you can call the Holy Spirit your inner divine guide, give it any name you want. But ask the Holy Spirit to help you see another way of looking at the world when you are in a dilemma. Just ask, just stop, do whatever you're doing. Stop. Go into a closet if you have to, lay on the couch, or just ask someone to give you a few moments of privacy and then ask the Holy Spirit to offer you another way of looking at the world. Just by asking, you are making yourself willing to see the truth. And you are on your way to your purpose in life, a life of passion. A Course in Miracles has helped me to see this metaphysically and spiritually in a way that what we are doing by asking is calling out for the miracle of justice, of real justice, to heal us, to give us healing. In other words, to help the ego fade and let spirit be in charge, as surely as we want this to be the same way in our brother/sister. The same, when I scolded my little girl that time when she was 7 years old, I wanted to help her heal as well. I think, I don't know. I was at so much younger age, like I'd said, but so we need to think about these lines of your inner power, not you, the body, not the ego, but your real inner power. The real spirit about you is the gifts of the Holy Spirit, or we may say your inner divine self, like I had said, but is a psychic power, so to speak. Yes, a psychic power instilled in you to not be content at all until you have the psychic ability to make decisions. And when I say psychic, I don't mean like, we think of someone who has psychic powers, and that's just ego-minded stuff like, the people that, nobody has any psychic powers over anybody else. But my point is what I'm trying to say is that when you ask the Holy Spirit, it means to him that you are giving yourself for your purpose in life, and by you giving it, he can ensure that everyone receives it equally. What I mean is, after all, what is psychic power anyway? Come on, think about it. What is psychic power anyway, other than the natural inner, inside, within, the natural power of the mind, of your mind? After all, what is psychic power after all, other than your real inner natural power of spirit, your natural power of mind with no ego involvement? Isn't that psychic power? Now that you have absorbed that truth in you, think how great your own release will be when you are absolutely willing to receive correction or undoing for all those life difficulties. Now, see, all too often when we say to receive correction, we want to think like you being corrected. You're being corrected like it's a punishment. No, when I say to receive correction, I'm talking about being willing to accept correction like a reversal, like an undoing of your thought process that caused those life difficulties. Undoing of the errors. That's what you're asking the Holy Spirit, your inner divine guide, to do, is to undo and to reverse your way of thinking from ego-based cloud cover to light of the Spirit. You know, you will not keep a single problem because that pain is not part of your function. Why you are here in this world, whatever it is that you want to do, that pain of the cloud cover that's covering over you, that's not your function. That is humanness, ego getting in the way. You will not want it when you ask the Holy Spirit. And like I said, call it Alice or Daniel or whatever name you want to use. But you will not, once you ask the Holy Spirit to undo, your inner divine guide, the Holy Spirit, to undo your errors in thought, you will not want those errors anymore. You will not want that way of thinking. You will no longer seem to own it, and you will see every little hurt and every little life difficulty being resolved by the Holy Spirit, your inner divine self. When you trust in your inner divine self. I can say that for those of you that know my story, and I'm not going to dwell on that today because we don't have the time. In my first book, The Master of Everything, that I'd written from a prison cell, 8 years in prison. Yeah, I kind of know what's going on here, but this is why I strongly also suggest you learn breathing meditation exercises to help you be more aligned with your inner essence. And that's just a term, inner essence, that I put in there, but can be the Holy Spirit. Your inner essence is the Holy Spirit. If you don't like the word Holy Spirit, like I said, you can call it something else, but all of them are little. All of your errors and all of your problems in life, all of your life difficulties are little. They're small. They're minute in His sight and are worth no more than just a little sigh of relief before they disappear to be forever undone, reversed, and corrected and unremembered. Think about that. That's all you have to do. Face that ego and let the Spirit take over, and all of them are little in His sight and are worth no more than just a little breathing sigh of relief that I asked the Holy Spirit to undo my way of thinking, and it will be done. That's all you have to do. You know, what once seemed to be the big life difficulties, errors in thought, without a remedy, or an affliction, we could say, without a cure, will be transformed into we can say, a universal blessing of your purpose in life in this world. Why not? You know, that would mean sacrifices gone. And, sacrifice. I mean, we don't have to sacrifice? No, I don't mean, doing some odd jobs that we don't like to do because we're working toward our true free will and our purpose in life. I'm not saying, but I'm meaning we don't need to live our life in this world being sacrifice or, that sacrifices everything. No, sacrifices of the ego. But when you're doing something that you don't like to do because your primary true free will, your objective and your goals are being served by you doing something that's uncomfortable for you to be doing, it's not sacrifice. It's just doing something that's not comfortable to do so you can get to where you're going. So I mean, when I say sacrifice is gone and it's in its place, is when your knowledge and acceptance of the truth comes forward in you. Yes, I'll repeat that. When sacrifice is gone from your mind and in its place becomes your knowledge and your acceptance of the truth, this is when you will learn how to and actually be able to have the power to overcome adversity by understanding the illusion that the adversity really is. Does that make sense? Hey, as I close, everyone, boy, I went a little overboard today, and the sun is starting to creep up now here, and it's going to be a great Monday. Here's to your purpose in life, to a life of purpose for you. And by the way, I invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. By the way, if you're listening to me right now and you're at YouTube, subscribe right now to my YouTube channel and be a dedicated subscriber. I mean, just subscribe and listen to me whenever you have a time to. But I also invite you to sign up for my Everyday Miracles newsletter, where we, meaning you, the reader, and I, the writer and author, we pull our minds together as one for finding happiness and a better life. Also, check out Amazon.com for my books. The Master of Everything, by the way, it's a story of mankind in the world of illusion we call life. It is the first of an ever-developing series. It's the pilot. It was released 3 years ago. I'm so excited about it. The second book, called Mastering Your Own Spiritual Freedom, Lessons from A Course in Miracles. It's been out. And now I'm so excited about this one, called And Then I Knew My Abundance, is now out now. Just now, as I'm speaking to you, it is released. You can find out more at Ozark Mountain Publishing Company, my publisher that I'm so proud of. And we're just a happy family there. So everything's going well. Please support my work. You can find out more about everything at my website. Go to the About Me page, anything that you want. Please support my work, and many have benefited from the material. And although I am offering you access to so many things, articles and my library and other things that are going on with my newsletters and all that's free to the world, there are many costs involved. And if I refer a product to you, it's only something that I looked at real closely to make sure that it's something that my people that listen to me will benefit from. No doubt about that. So, building a platform like I'm doing is not an easy task, but it's a fun task, and I am enjoying every minute of my communication, and extending myself to the world is what I'm doing. And I hope you think a lot about your own life and your own extension of yourself to the world, because the world needs you. By the way, you can please join me at Twitter. I love Twitter. Please follow me on Twitter and Facebook and Google+. Well, as I go here now and get ready for my early Monday, I want to say that I wish the best for you, because for you to be listening to me this far along either means that you are awesome and beautiful within, or that you just like the way I talk and you like my message, or most likely it's just all of the above. I hope you enjoyed, and I just try to be a down-to-earth person. And I'm down to earth. I've got a lot of ego in myself, because I'm a human too, that we all have to deal with. But I try my best through my writing and through my messages to let the ego take a back seat and accept the ego while I'm here in this world. But I want, as long as I'm here in this world, I want the ego to be in the back seat, and I accept it. But I want spirit to be driving along the way. I hope you can think about that in the same way. And if you do, overcoming life difficulties will be made easier. James Nussbaumer, signing off. God bless.